Have you ever witnessed a moment so powerful, so raw, that it brought the entire basketball world to a halt? That's exactly what happened when Michael Jordan stepped forward and broke his legendary silence. A figure, typically distant from the spotlight of women's basketball. Jordan took the mic and delivered a speech that was anything but rehearsed. In an era full of polished press releases and carefully crafted sound bites, his words hit like gospel. This wasn't just a speech, it was a passing of the torch, and the world was watching. There was no theatrics, no flash. He stepped into the moment with the weight of someone who redefined the sport itself. And then, with just a few measured words, he lit the stage on fire. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham weren't simply recognized, they were immortalized. When the greatest to ever play the game speaks, people listen. And when he speaks your name, it's not just a compliment, it's a coronation. These weren't hollow words meant to trend. This was legacy, recognizing legacy in real time. What Jordan did in that moment shattered years of silence around the WNBA. He didn't just validate Clark and Cunningham. He challenged the world to see them as he does, leaders, warriors, future Hall of Famers. And when he finished, the silence in the room said more than any applause ever could. He had changed the conversation. While the media zeroed in on Clark's record-breaking rookie season, shattering attendance records and lighting up the ratings, like Times Square, Jordan saw something deeper. He didn't mention the stats or the awards. He didn't echo the media frenzy. Instead, he focused on what separates the good from the transcendent. She owns the moment, he said, and everyone knew what he meant, because Clark doesn't grow into greatness. She arrives already ablaze. Jordan compared her to a fire that doesn't need ignition. She doesn't wait for the spotlight to find her. She walks into the arena like it was built for her. And in that moment, Jordan didn't see a rising star. He saw a mirror. His words didn't follow a script. They weren't filtered through PR. They were raw, unfiltered, real. He didn't say Clark was the next big thing in women's basketball. He said she was a big thing in basketball, period. And just like that, the walls that had long divided the men's and women's games began to crack. He didn't place her in a box, he obliterated the box altogether. This woman is a moment, and when Jordan speaks, the moment listens. It wasn't just an endorsement, it was an awakening, and just when it seemed the spotlight would stay fixed on Clark, Jordan pivoted and the room held its breath. What came next was even more unexpected. He brought up Sophie Cunningham, not as an afterthought, not as a role player, but as a force raw, unfiltered, and unrelenting. He called her a storm in sneakers, and that wasn't metaphor, that was truth. If Caitlin is the explosion that lights up the sky, Sophie is the thunder that shakes the ground. Jordan knew exactly what he was doing when he said her name in the same breath as Clark's. Cunningham isn't chasing cameras. She doesn't beg for headlines. She bleeds for every possession. She makes her presence felt even if it never makes the highlight reel. She throws herself into plays like she's fighting ghosts. Angry, focused, personal. And Jordan noticed, because he didn't build his legacy on talent alone. He built it by turning competition into obsession. That's why his recognition of Sophie wasn't just a gesture. It was a passing of the flame. Jordan didn't see her stats, he saw her soul. When legends speak, the world listens. And Michael Jordan wasn't alone. Larry Bird, Indiana's own mythic figure, stepped into the light too. Another icon known for his silence. Bird did the unthinkable. He publicly praised Caitlin Clark, not just for her flash, but for her fire. He compared her to himself at Indiana State. That wasn't nostalgia, that was reverence. Bird admitted he found himself tuning into more Iowa games than NBA ones. He didn't just admire her, he saw himself in her. The precision, the vision, the grit, that wasn't a compliment, that was a blessing. And then came Shaquille O'Neal, the Diesel, known for championing Angel Reese. But this time, On live television, Shaq made a confession. "I'm not Shaq right now. I'm a fan." And just like that, the atmosphere shifted. The energy changed. It was raw. It was real. And the world watched as the legends passed the torch, not because they were asked to, but because they had to. Because greatness recognizes greatness. Shaq admitted he didn't believe at first. But what he saw in Caitlin Clark shattered every doubt. Her passes weren't just precise, they were surgical. Her leadership wasn't just loud, it was magnetic. And when someone like Shaquille O'Neal, one of the most dominant centers in NBA history, says you won him over, it's not admiration. It's a shift in gravitational pull. The buzz around Caitlin Clark is deafening, but Sophie Cunningham, she's the quiet engine behind it. While Clark shines in the spotlight, Sophie bleeds in the shadows. Still, her impact is seismic. One leads with flair, the other with fists. Basketball is better because of both. What unites them isn't their style, it's their substance. Clark, with her logo threes, Cunningham with her floor burns, together they form a balance the WNBA has never seen. Tyrese Halliburton, the Pacers' rising star, sees it too. He shows up to Clark's games, not as a celebrity fan, but as a peer. Halliburton understands pressure. He knows what it means to carry a city's hopes. So when he talks about Clark, there's no fawning. Just a quiet nod, one soldier to another. 2 point guards, 2 leaders, no flash, just mutual respect. But respect isn't always given. When the 2024 Olympic roster dropped, and Caitlin Clark's name wasn't on it, the silence said everything. No interviews, no quotes, just absence. And then the outrage poured in. But Clark, she didn't speak. She worked. She hit the gym, trained harder, sharpened her craft. While others questioned and campaigned, she calculated, in that silence. She earned something more valuable than a medal: freedom. Freedom to evolve away from the noise. Dwight Howard called it what it was, a challenge. Clark didn't flinch. And while legends like Jeff Teague and Rick Barry tore into the WNBA for the snub, Clark stayed focused. Teague called her a movement. Barry said the snub felt personal, cheap shots dressed up as defense, but Clark didn't break. She didn't pout. She produced. And when the moment demanded protection, Sophie was already moving. In a bruising June game, Clark took a foul that felt like more than basketball. The cameras caught Cunningham storming in like a bullet. No hesitation, no permission, just instinct. She wasn't just defending a teammate. She was defending a shift, a cultural moment, a message. Not on my watch. Sophie Cunningham doesn't speak in slogans. She speaks in actions. When Indiana stumbled, she didn't duck the spotlight. She stood up, called out her teammates, called out herself, and delivered 16 points, 10 rebounds, and a message to the league: underestimate me, at your own risk. Where headlines chase flash, Sophie brings fire. She's the soul of Indiana, the one diving for loose balls like they owe her something. She's not here for the cameras. She's here to set a tone. And slowly, the legends are starting to see it. Sophie's not riding Clark's wave. She's co-building it. Clark gives the 1B visibility. Cunningham gives it accountability. Together, they're not just playing, they're rewriting the rules. But the real power in their partnership isn't just what happens on the court. It's what it means off of it. Sophie knows the grind. Overseas contracts, pay cuts, empty gyms. She knows the silence women's basketball has lived in. And Clark, she has the mic now. She has the reach to flip the script. But flipping the script doesn't just mean changing plays. It means shaking the system. And when power starts to shift, pushback always comes. Caitlin Clark might be the face of the WNBA's future. But behind the endorsements and the highlight reels, there's a storm brewing. Not everyone's clapping. Not every coach is thrilled. In back rooms and locker rooms, whispers are turning loud. Is the league ready to build around Clark? And what happens to those who've paid their dues quietly, without shoe deals and primetime slots? For some, Clark is a beacon. For others, a threat. She is both inspiration and irritation, because when a league that long thrived in the margins finally finds its spotlight, the question isn't just who gets to stand in it, it's who gets left in the dark. They feel like they were never fully embraced. That's where Sophie Cunningham becomes essential. She's walked a long road, felt the sting of being overlooked, and understands exactly what it means to give everything to the game and still feel invisible. But instead of using that pain to tear Caitlin Clark down, she's using it to build a bridge, because Sophie understands what Caitlin represents and, more importantly, what Caitlin doesn't. She's seen players collapse under the weight of spotlight pressure. She's watched the media crown heroes one week and bury them the next. Cunningham's presence isn't just about protection, it's insurance. A buffer against implosion. But not everyone sees it that way. Inside the league offices, executives are scrambling. The explosion of Caitlin Clark has thrown years of careful branding into chaos. Old marketing plans feel ancient overnight. The league is being dragged into the mainstream, but not on its own terms. Sponsors want Caitlin, networks want Caitlin, merchandisers want Caitlin, and the players who've given their lives to this league quietly 4 years are asking a fair question. What about us? The answer isn't easy, because while Clark has brought the attention, she's also revealed the fractures, cracks in pay equity, cracks in representation, cracks in media coverage, and those cracks are growing. Cunningham is trying to hold it together from within, quietly working with the Players Association, whispering hard truths to rookies too scared to speak, making calls behind closed doors. Not for fame, but because she knows the price of silence. Meanwhile, Clark is learning in real time. Her rise didn't come with a manual. One day she's a hero. The next she's being called entitled. One off night becomes a national headline. One quote gets twisted into a lightning rod, and the league, they're walking a tightrope. They want the attention, the dollars, the ratings, but they're terrified of losing the locker room. It's a house of cards, fragile egos, old systems, unspoken rules. Clark's success is the gust of wind shaking it all. In boardrooms, names like Diana Taurasi and Cheryl Reeves still carry weight. Their unease with Clark isn't rooted in envy, it's about control. For years, they wrote the narrative. Now they're watching a rookie take the pen, and Sophie sees it coming. She recognizes the smiles that don't reach the eyes, the fake hugs. She knows what's on the horizon if they don't get ahead of it. The vision collapses, the bitterness sets in, and the league turns on itself. So she leans in, louder, sharper, more visible, more defiant. Because if Caitlin is lightning, Sophie is the grounding wire. And the brands, they've already picked their sides. Nike is all in on Clark. Adidas is watching for the next anti-Clark voice. Puma is cozying up to the veterans, waiting for fallout. It's no longer just a player divide, it's a corporate chessboard. Agents are stoking the fire leaking to the press, crafting subtle digs, weaponizing interviews and tweets to shape a story. Some want Clark canonized before she even gets a ring. Others want her torn down before she gets close. Clark stays quiet. But don't confuse that with being unaware. She's observing, absorbing, and making moves the public doesn't see. Because her power isn't just in her range, it's in her reach. She's not just playing basketball. She's disrupting a culture. And every time she checks in, the league feels the ground shift beneath them. Sophie knows what's coming. She's seen the playbook too many times. First, they lift you up. Then they isolate you. And finally, when it gets uncomfortable, they try to erase you. But not this time. Not on her watch. She's already rallying. Young stars who see through the noise. Role players tired of being background extras. International vets who've been underpaid and underpromoted for years. A coalition is forming, and the message is simple. evolve, or die. Meanwhile, Clark is opening doors that were once locked tight. She's sitting in rooms she never had access to, meeting with players, talking with execs, stepping into sponsorship summits, not just for herself, but with the bigger picture in mind. Every conversation, every handshake, every connection, she's widening the path for every woman who comes after her. Still, the storm builds. The old guard watches, some with pride, others with something colder, and everyone is waiting for the flashpoint, because eventually, it comes. A scandal, a betrayal, a find something off camera that tests everything. That's when the truth shows. Who stands beside her when the spotlight fades? Cunningham will. That's already written, because she's not just guarding Caitlin. She's protecting progress itself, protecting the league from implosion, protecting a future that's bigger than any one rookie, any one moment. Together, they're forcing a choice between fear and future, between comfort and courage, between preserving the past or risking something greater. The league doesn't have the luxury of time. Their partnership isn't just chemistry, revolution, youth, edge, wisdom, fire. They're not playing for stats. They're playing for transformation. Every possession is a message. Every win, a challenge. And now the WNBA is listening, because it has no choice. Caitlin's selling out arenas. Sophie's galvanizing locker rooms.